and thank you for joining us on Charting the Way Forward, where we deliver research-informed strategy and intelligence from across the Democratic coalition. This podcast is produced by Way to Win. I'm your host, Kerry Eleveld, and today I am joined by...
Hi, Jenifer Fernandez Ancona, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Way to Win.
All right, and today we are delighted to have Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, who represents the East Bay of California, just in time for some shutdown and Proposition 50 talk.
Yeah.
That's right. We're going to get into it. Representative Simon serves as a deputy whip for policy, a vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and Democratic Women's Caucus. A quick reminder here that we are recording on Tuesday, and this episode drops on Thursday. And, shutdowns are unpredictable, so it is possible that things may have changed slightly by the time you hear this. But let's start local, Congresswoman, with California's Proposition 50. And this is Governor, for our listeners, you don't need this education moment, but Governor Gavin Newsom's initiative to fight back against Republicans' redistricting power grab in Texas and elsewhere. And if voters approve it next month, Democrats could gain up to another 5 seats by redrawing the state's congressional districts. You have said you are voting yes, I think for fairly obvious reasons, but what does this measure represent to you in the broader scope of history?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
Welcome, my Congresswoman.
Yeah, there you go. Proposition 50, actually, I work daily in many weeks, many months. I've been partnered with the governor on many different initiatives, but I actually see Prop 50 as a fight for all Californians to lead the nation in this moment. I'm so thankful for his courage and tenacity to be the first of many Democratic governors who are now sort of standing firm. But, in our state, so goes California, so goes the nation. So here's why I'm voting yes. Here's why I've been campaigning on the yes front is the president of the United States is completely open about his intention and the implementation of stealing the next election. It's shocking, demanding that governors, without going to the voters, redraw congressional lines. But it also, to me, Prop 50 is an anecdote to a tried and true push. We've seen this before. They're just different names, and it's a different generation. The Texas legislature was extremely clear about its wanting to take away Black and brown seats. We know what this is. This is not just Republican versus the Democrats. This really, Prop 50 gives Californians the opportunity to literally set the record straight that this nation is going to stop this president's addiction to horrific policies and attacking the American people. Everything that we've known to be true over the past few generations. Social security for our elders, support for disabled folks, healthcare, basic due process, all of that is on the line. And they're doing everything that they can to stop really any progress that we have built. We're saying hell no. And Prop 50 for me is that exclamation mark on the hell no, which gives us the opportunity to push back and win back the Congress for the people of the United States of America.
I like the hell no exclamation point. I tell you what from Trump and Republicans' standpoint and their overt power grab, what does that tell you about how they feel about the midterms?
Well, I think it's clear, even in our office, all Democratic offices, we're getting calls from red states, from red voters who are up in arms about the lies that they were told by this administration during the campaign. You have soybean farmers and their crops are rotting. You have teachers who are teaching disabled students and aides teaching disabled students who are now seeing the dilapidation of supports for folks with disabilities. You see low-income folks from all over the country who work full-time but rely on SNAP. They're realizing that this administration doesn't have their best interest at heart. And it's clear in the polls that Americans don't approve of really the it's not even a power grab. It's a clear explanation that they're only out for themselves, the way that they've been governing. So of course he's afraid of the midterms, because we're going to win those midterms. We were also the American people are really clear that we're not just going to hold our hands on our hips anymore and just watch them break the law and just scream it's not fair. Gavin Newsom and the supporters of Prop 50 are saying, let's actually go to the voters and let's come together as an anecdote, as an opportunity for us to really, really push back, which I believe can change the material conditions of the Congress and of this nation. We can't just sit around and continue to watch these folks tear up the Constitution in our face. We're going to win the midterms, not just because of Prop 50, but it's one of many strategies to push back on what we can no longer call an administration. We actually have to call it what it is. It's a regime.
Absolutely. And hi, nice to have you on.
Nice to see you.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you've been out and about talking about it and talking to voters about it across the state. And then when we look at the polling, it's like it looks pretty good, but you never know what could happen. And then sometimes it looks a little volatile. So I guess I was just wondering what you see as the kind of the hurdles to it passing, or like where is there a danger in kind of either the narrative or how people are paying attention. And so then how could our listeners be a part of it? Like what is needed? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
I mean, overall, the messaging for any ballot initiative, I don't care what the ballot initiative is, if it's, a special election, you got to be really clear with the voters. And what I have been saying, that we don't just need to talk about the democracy writ large being in danger. We got to talk to the mother who doesn't have quarters for laundry. We have to talk to the elder who may be literally in their last years of their lives facing huge expansions on their own premiums as they're living in their elder environment. They may be kicked out and sent back home. That if we continue in this way, we're going to continue to see more hospitals closing all over the country. Again, poor families are worrying about their next meals. Tens of thousands of folks have been fired from the federal government, the folks who actually make our government run. I think actually the numbers are now into the hundreds of thousands. So we got to actually talk to folks. What does that mean when your uncle needs to go get his Social Security and there's no one to answer the door or answer the phone? What does this mean when, your young person that you love so much, maybe you've been mentoring them, maybe they're your kid, is trying to apply to university, but their loan opportunities are shifted. I mean, the social safety nets, the advancement of the American people is now in question. So Prop 50, we got to knock on doors. We got to sit at people's dinner tables. We absolutely have to make all the calls that we can, because Jenifer, what I think is really important to understand, we have seen 10 months of chaos by design, to paralyze us. One day it's the shuttering of USAID. The next day it's tens of thousands of mostly Black and brown women fired from the federal government. The next day, I mean, it's going on, and every day they want us to not only be paralyzed, but really to sort of bow down to this authoritarianism. 50 gives us this clear pathway. So yes, we can't take, we're, what is it, 54%? The poll said today we're 54%. Listen, you got to get people outside. We got to knock on doors to make sure that people are returning their ballots. We have to be walking our best friend and our bingo partners to the mailbox in the next couple of weeks. There will not be a movement for justice if these folks get another year and a half plus another two and another two. The Congress can't continue to just rubber stamp the president's illegal actions. That's what this is about. So we got to organize in these next couple of weeks like everything is on the line, because it is.
So I hear that's like make it really relevant to people's lives. It's not just an abstract thought about democracy, but what is actually at stake is so much bigger. And then we can't take anything for granted, so we need to show up in this last push. Like it is a really big election, and we can't take it for granted that we would win, of course, and have to get out.
Well, and also, Jen, if you think about what's been happening, I mean, in real terms to real people, if I was to tell you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 24 months ago, that in Chicago, you could see Black Hawks hurling over a housing project and then stormtroopers beaming down and then crashing into the windows of young families and taking out naked children and zip tying them, you would say, no, like that sounds like an amazing Netflix Saturday night, but that could never happen because one, of due process and checks and balances. Well, like that's now. That happened and it will continue to happen. And you know why? Because Congress approved resources to this president so that he could do whatever he wants to go siege on communities. And instead of creating a immigration system that works, he's decided to terrorize families and communities. That's what Prop 50 is about. We have to stop this rage to totalitarianism. And with that, we can. So if you're knocking on, the door of auntie next door who's always sitting on her porch watching community, we need to make her a precinct captain too and get her in on the organizing because everything is on the line.
Yeah, that's such a good point, that part of what Congress has done is supercharged Trump's ability to turn ICE into this like horrific force by, funneling hundreds of millions of dollars their way.
Yep.
Billions. Sorry.
Billion. No. Because you can't even imagine how much resource. ICE is now the most well-funded law enforcement unit in the country and also in the country's history. The checks and balances are critical. And for the Republicans to stop stealing elections, I mean, there are so many reasons why we have to vote yes. We're, again, taking our question to the voters instead of just being raggedy and redrawing maps in the state house, in the Republican states. We're actually requesting that folks in California ride with us as we try to take back our democracy. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, you in California have a specific, a very special opportunity to send a real message, not just from lawmakers, but from the actual people, which is really interesting and different from what's happening in Texas. Let's move a second to another hot topic, which is the shutdown. And, Democrats, I will say, after a period of like and this is not meant to be offensive, but a period of like post 2024 shell shock, I feel like the Democratic caucus is starting to really gain their footing in this shutdown fight. And I wonder, from your perspective, what's working here that wasn't before? Because Republicans seem really knocked back on their heels right now. There's a lot of fissures starting to develop in the caucus. And I'm wondering how you, from your seat, how you view what's happening and why this has been a galvanizing moment for Democrats.
When I came in just 10 months ago, I know a lot of folks have a lot of analysis of what's not going well with the Democrats. The Democrats writ large have been rule-following people. This caucus has been wonderfully welcoming to me, and I've been able to see us in a time where we are struggling with an administration who refuses to go by the law of the land. So we have been, I think, since I've gotten here, fighting every day. But the shocking piece is that fight in the midst of an administration that is hell-bent on destroying all that we have built, it has, in fact, knocked us a bit. This opportunity to literally listen to the American people, particularly federal workers who we've been talking to and galvanizing around for months and months since the initial firings, we've heard it loud and clear. Fight for us. Fight for our health care. Don't capitulate. That there's no time for, being on our knees. We actually have to rise up. That's coming from our union partners. That's coming from regular folks. They're saying, you know what? Move with your chest, move with your fist. And the Democrats are following suit for the people. Everyone in this country will see their health care interrupted in ways, meaning the prices are going up, your local hospital, even in the moment now, they're seeing huge shifts. This is real. So healthcare for us, it's the floor. It's the floor. Sure, we could talk about the unconstitutionality of damn near every single executive order, but let's talk about the damn betrayal of the American people by saying, regardless who you are, if you're a small business owner, if you're a child literally struggling to survive and you're fighting cancer, to our elders who are also going to see the brunt of this, we're hearing what folks are saying and we're moving forward. It's resonating. You know why? Because it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth that the Republican Party is betraying its own voters, the poorest folks in our country, rural Americans, not just urban folks, not just Black and brown folks. Their policy agenda is it's a complete betrayal on all things good for all of us. So folks again, I think there's pressure in communities. My folks are asking, when are we going to reopen the government? This is a Republican shutdown. They have done a piss poor job at negotiating with our leadership. I mean, literally, they're not here. I'm in Washington. The floor of the United States Congress is closed. Mike Johnson refuses to bring his people back to work. The Democrats are here and we're ready to work. We would love to be in a conversation about how we not only defend healthcare for the American people, but how we can expand it. They're not showing up. It's their shutdown.
I mean,
yeah. Oh, go ahead, Kerry.
Well, I'm sorry. You brought up this idea that the, Republicans aren't even, are out of town. They're not even negotiating. They're not there to do any work whatsoever. And I wonder how their constituents feel in this moment that that the government shut down and they're not even in town.
Have you seen any Republican town halls lately? No. You want to know why? Because the Speaker of the House has, from the beginning of this Congress, encouraged his folks not to be in community, not to hold town halls. I have been in office for less than a year. I've held 9. I'll have another one this week. We are being directed to both our districts and beyond to talk to the American people, to let them know what's at stake, not using political talking points, but really just citing the truth that we are in danger. I'm hoping that and praying that folks will get back to work for the sake of our federal workers, for the sake of families all around the country who are nervous about not getting their next SNAP allocation. There are bits and pieces that we're seeing from the administration to try to begin to address small parts of the effects of this shutdown. What they need to do is come back to the negotiation table and stop ripping away healthcare from the American people, and then we could reopen the government.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, I guess I'm curious what you think has changed in these 10 months, because it was different in the first shutdown fight earlier in the year in March than it seems to be now. So just like from your vantage point of being in the caucus, what do you think is different or has changed such that it does feel like we are currently able to win this shutdown fight in terms of the narrative and pinning it on Republicans and having them have to scramble versus it being put on us?
Well, I will say this, Jen, the leadership of our caucus is in like super hyper communication with all of us. We are very, very much in touch in this moment. Hell, we have a caucus meeting tonight. There's the in-person, the online. And I say that to say that the leadership of our party, they are working to be in communication with us, individual members, to understand what our folks are hearing in communities. And we're translating that into our own rally cry. So we are extremely united, and really united and pissed off about what is happening, because when we're getting the calls of dying children, when we're getting the calls of nurses already being fired from ICUs because their hospitals are fearful of what's going to happen with the Medicaid and Medicare cuts, that power, it's resonating. The power from real people. It's coming into our caucus meetings. We have a collective demand on one another that we stand strong for these folks, knowing that there is pain right now. But again, this is the Republican shutdown. If they want to support the least among us, the seniors, the dying, the widows, they would come back to the table, but
Yeah.
apparently it's not in their interest. They're not even at work. They're not at work.
I know. It's crazy.
It's
And
crazy.
it was
Yeah.
interesting because, that happened in March. And then we did a lot of research in the spring, later in the spring, like into May, where we did a lot of deep listening to the voters who didn't show up in 2024, but had actually voted in 2020. So we should have been able to get them back. And I think one of the biggest messages we heard from them was like, we don't, and I know that you're saying you have been fighting the whole time, which I feel like I'm sure is true. But from their vantage point was like, I don't feel like the Democrats are fighting for me.
Yeah.
We need to fight harder. Like what Trump is doing is insane. Like we need to see it more. And so it does feel like what I'm hearing you say is some of that outside pressure, that outside like upswell, right, is like part of what we've been doing this past year, and that we're seeing the benefits of that right now with the caucus being so fired up.
I think it's the organizing, the external organizing. I was texting with our mutual friend Ijen Poe this weekend about. I was, telling her like every single day that I'm in the Capitol, I see women from, the care justice economy in their hats and visors knocking on Republican and Democratic doors. It's not just Ijen's group. There are groups around the country who are blowing up folks' phones every single day, demanding that Democrats work differently. We need to be uncomfortable as well. Folks need to recharge this party as they're doing in real time and saying, you have to be more vocal. You have to fight. You have to tell our stories. Do not lay down and let these folks roll all over you. We have the moral advantage here. We, as the people, the real people. Listen, the coolest thing, the first day that I came into Congress and I got to be on the House floor, you look at, sure, both parties have a lot of work to do, but you look at the Democratic side of the aisle and it's representative of these United States racially, from a faith-based perspective. There are, again, we have queer folks, trans folks on our side. We have single mothers, disabled people. You look to sort of this monolithic, homogenous sort of group of folks who have been let in to the House, who again are very myopic in terms of who they care about. And right now it seems like they only care about President Trump and his wishes and his words. We are going to continue to listen to our folks and organize and push back. We are not only going to win back the House. I think that once we win, we're going to have a very, very heavy task to rebuild from the studs, because so much has been torn down in only 10 months, and there'll be more to follow until we actually win back the midterms. But you know what? I think that our caucus is ready to fight, and we're fighting, and we're in touch with our folks. And I would just encourage folks to keep pushing. Don't just call your Republican members of Congress and the House and Senate members that you're pissed at. I think it's really important that you push your Democratic members to let them know you want them to do even more, or thank them when they're standing up. The people right now have an opportunity to reframe how we work as a caucus, and that's exciting. I'm an organizer, true and true, and I think you got to really sort of push electeds to do their damn jobs. I don't care how they vote and what color they represent. Doing our job now doesn't mean just going and voting in the House. It means being on the phone all day. It means voting our conscience. It means not capitulating. It means being a voice of real people.
You mentioned something that was interesting to me there about that it was just like a little insight into what it might be like if we are able to retake the House. And right now you are fighting very specifically. I mean, you're fighting for democracy, but you're fighting on this specific issue of healthcare, right? And you've galvanized the entire caucus around that for very good reasons, right? Everybody's hearing from it, from their constituents, as you said. What do you imagine is possible? What kind of work is going into thinking about what you guys might do if you prevail next year? And I know it's early, so like it's kind of, I may be getting ahead of, you got to win first, right? But everybody knew that when Trump and his, people came in, his whole regime, they were going to do this Project 2025. And I know it's a little different because that was a presidential script, but what are you guys working on developing now?
Well, I know what we do deserve, and I know why I want to come back in 2026. I'm campaigning for my election right now. We have work to do. I know that I want to be a part of the conversation and action to build back the Department of Education. I want to be a part of the conversation where we honor our veterans in the way that they should be honored, where we make sure that every decision we're making is about uplifting poor people and working class people, to create a trajectory of policy opportunities and legislation that is about, again, we're going to have to build back, not just better. We're going to have to build back because, again, they're ripping everything apart. And I think that, again, as we're in this fight right now, listening to the rallying calls of folks from all over this country, they're telling us what this vision is. They don't want to have anxiety around whether they can get a triple bypass or not. They don't want to have anxiety whether they can send their kids to a vocational training program or college. These are very, very, very basic values. They want to make sure that when someone seeks asylum, that there is an actual process that is respectable and where there's due process. I think that is the trajectory for our party, is to do right by the folks who have deserved a megaphone for quite some time. I'm sure that if we have this conversation next year, man, our strategy as we're building it together will be, again, another rallying call for us to win back the House. But again, I think it's listening to real people and taking those stories and creating a real legislative and policy and political agenda. That's what I know I'm here to do.
Yeah. And I guess I just want to say, because Kerry, you said you have to win first, but I actually think, running with a message during the midterms on whatever it is that you would want to do is critical, because people are hearing all these policies, but they're not hearing a story. And I feel like that is what is really missing, and that we could really drive forward throughout all of 2026. And then it's clear what it is we're doing. We don't have all the power. We can't do it all. But if that story comes across, then that does set up better for the next presidential election.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that, Washington is doing better, I think, about talking about real people. I should say Democrats talking about real people. Every press conference we have as a caucus, there's folks right there telling their stories. But again, I do think that, coming from the other side, it's definitely not a narrative strong sector. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're not telling people how and why their space is in the political space, why voting is even, to folks on the deep left, that their critical resistance right now is taking back the ballot box. I'm hoping during my tenure here that I can see even the Democrats actually politically come together. We are not a monolith, right?
Mm-hmm.
We believe in healthcare for all. We believe in a multicultural democracy. I'm hoping that, we're talking as we did, post 64, from 64 to 68, about what's on the line and the opportunities for all of us to be in a multicultural democracy, for education, for advancement, for the fulfillment of children's bellies. You're absolutely right. Like, the urgency, it's coming. I'm feeling it here. But I think every day we have to do exactly what you're saying, or we have to talk about our mothers, our fathers, our aunts, our uncles, our institutions as they belong to us. We've bifurcated a lot of that in our policy conversations. The Department of Education is for every child from Alabama to San Francisco who has a learning disability, who, with the Department of Education, at least, prior to this administration, you had the Department of Civil Rights, or the Office of Civil Rights, ensuring that there was follow through on ensuring that kids got what they needed. I can go on and on, but those are our institutions. And so developing the narrative about why they're important, the granular consequences when these institutions fall apart, we got to get better. And hopefully I'm doing more of that every day.
Amazing.
All right. That seems like a great place to leave it. We could obviously talk for a lot longer with Congresswoman Simon. But let's leave it there. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you and the work you're doing, and the work that Democrats are doing right now, particularly in this shutdown. So Thank you to our listeners. We so appreciate you. Please go ahead and let's do some activism for our own podcast. Get more listeners. Bring a friend to your next listen. Walk and listen at the same time and discuss afterwards. And with that, we will see you next Thursday. Until then, do good, be well, hug your loved ones, and tell your dog I say hi.